A square board, multicolored bills, a little mustached man with his tall top hat, and entire afternoons spent arguing. Today we'll reveal Monopoly's secrets to success through 3 versions. First is the modern Monopoly you know, but with a high-tech twist, the popular bank card. The second is Anti-Monopoly from the 1970s, a groundbreaking game that caused one of the biggest board game scandals. And the last one, though published in the 1950s, it's an authentic adaptation of the original 1936 version, one of the very first to be marketed. And the least we can say is that in almost 90 years of existence, what was once a simple game has become a true worldwide phenomenon. Over 1 billion people have played it. It's available in 114 countries and 47 languages. And you know what? Even Muhammad Ali and the Beatles played it. Less known is that beyond childhood memories and success, Monopoly has a hidden story. A captivating tale of theft and deception. And above all, the story of a woman whose name was erased for nearly 70 years. What's the story behind the world's most popular game? And above all, what was the recipe that made it the ultimate family game ahead of all its competitors? To understand this success, let's start by opening the modern version of the game, today's Monopoly, the one you find in every toy store and even in supermarkets. This World Monopoly version, my family and I played it for hours and never got bored. That's its appeal. You can buy the world's biggest cities, including Montreal, the most expensive one for some unknown reason. Is this machine that allows us, thanks to the credit cards that also come with the game, to manage our money easily. It may seem time-saving since you skip handing out bills, but it's actually slower. Because no one knows exactly how much money they have, you have to ask each time and no one remembers. But on top of that, you can only do one transaction at a time, which really slows the game down. With bills, you can bypass someone and others can settle what they owe at the same time. So they went really far with the details, since we have different types of houses inspired by architectures from all over the world. And it's the same with the hotels, which represent different types of skyscrapers. It's true that they took the details a bit further. It's a gimmick, but I still prefer the version with the bills. So here is Monopoly in its current version. You buy properties, you build houses, and you try to bankrupt your opponents. The concept is pretty simple. Yet, this game remained a hit in 2023, ranking as the 4th best-selling game in France. And one of the secrets to this success is that the publisher Hasbro keeps reinventing the formula by releasing countless spin-offs. But there are so many different versions that it's really hard to know how many exist today. His advice is that in 90 years it's the game that has had the most editions in the world, with hundreds of versions to its name. For example, there's a Star Wars version for fans of the saga, a Fortnite version, and a mobile version. That number keeps growing with customizations by city, region or country. In France there's Paris, Béziers, Beauvais and Montcuq. Besides traditional, customized and geographic versions, they constantly release special editions to change how you play. For example, there's Monopoly Cheaters designed for cheaters, urging them to do wrong and even steal from other players. There's also Monopoly Millennials, released in 2018 with a provocative slogan, "Forget properties, you won't be able to afford them anyway." So instead of buying streets, you visit trendy places, festivals, vegan brunches, co-working spaces. And the tokens are emojis and hashtags, and the version that got the most attention was released in 2019, it's Ms. Monopoly. She says goodbye to the little mustached man and replaces him with his niece. The train stations become carpooling spaces and the houses become headquarters. This modernization effort is ironic once you know the game's real story. We'll return to that. But before that, how do you think these hundreds of boxes became so successful? First, there was perfect timing. Monopoly originated in the United States during the Great Depression in the interwar period. During financial hardship, people were offered a game to play as wealthy real estate owners. Americans needed this escape. Publishers also quickly showed a unique ability to adapt the game for each country and city. In New York, you buy Broadway. In London, you buy Mayfair. In Paris, you buy the Champs-Élysées. This local customization fostered ownership and connection among players worldwide. But what really makes Monopoly strong, the foundation of its gameplay, is its perfect balance between simplicity and depth. The rules are easy for children to understand, but strategies can be quite complex. Did you know the orange and red properties are statistically the game's most profitable? Why is that? Well, it's simply because of the jail space. When you get out, you're more likely to land on those properties. If you want to win at Monopoly, focus on owning those colors. It's a solid but basic strategy. If you want to compete in the World Championship, let me explain further. At the end of the game, when all properties are owned, players try to spend as much time as possible in jail in order to save valuable turns by avoiding landing on their opponent's colors and losing very precious money. Although jail seems intimidating at first, it's statistically the Monopoly space players land on most often. And if you combine that with another crucial statistic, the number we're most likely to get with 2 dice is 6, 7, or 8. You quickly see why the orange spaces are the best in the game. That detail separates a casual player from a true Monopoly strategist. I bet you, like me, enjoyed playing Monopoly without thinking about any of that. And that's really the secret to its success. The classic game for ages 7 to 77, blending strategy and luck for lasting memories across generations. Because yes, there's obviously the social aspect. Monopoly is mainly about negotiation. You bargain, form alliances, and betray each other. It's like a mini society. And it's really this ideal positioning that largely explains its success with the general public.
Oh my goodness, is that Monopoly? There we go. That's how we kill the time.
But this monumental success almost came to a sudden halt. That was quite some time ago, well before my first game. In 1973, Ralph Hansbach, an economics professor from San Francisco, created Anti-Monopoly to show the dangers of monopolies in the economy. Nothing surprising for an economics professor. He thinks monopoly sends a dangerous message: create monopolies and ruin others. Monopolies hurt the economy by killing competition and raising prices. He decides to create a game that does the opposite and calls it Anti-Monopoly, focusing on avoiding monopolies. The players as investigators must dismantle them. The aim is to restore competition by breaking up other players' monopolies. Honestly, it was clever. So here we have Anti-Monopoly. It's clearly stated this game isn't licensed or made by Parker Brothers, the creators of Monopoly. We find bills here. In this case they're called ecus, and the equivalent of chance cards here are postcards, so it's similar. You roll the dice, receive 200 ecus and so on. So different events. Just like in the game of Monopoly, we have different properties. In this case they are companies, so we have International Chemistry Europe, Aluminum United States of America Aluminum. We also have card holders where you can slide them in so it looks something like this. The tokens look like this and are made of plastic, and we have 2 wooden pawns. And also these antitrust credit tokens, each worth a certain number of coins, each with a particular theme. Finally, we have the board itself, which actually has more spaces than Monopoly but looks very similar to it. There are mailboxes scattered all over, and we have the famous starting square that lets us collect coins. There's a go to court space, which is the equivalent of going to jail, and the court itself. In the corner we don't have a free parking space, but there's a special square where when you roll a die you get certain rewards. Free parking is right here just after the starting square. Landing here has no effect. And in terms of squares, we have General Electric, Peugeot Auto, General Auto, Ford Auto, so we know who they're referring to. We also have Michelin in this game. Instead of building hotels to pay more, you have to turn them into independent businesses to lower the prices. Players earn points for breaking up monopolies, and whoever contributes most to restoring competition wins. Except that Parker Brothers, the publisher of Monopoly, doesn't really appreciate the initiative. They file a trademark infringement suit against Ansbach. Given the game's success, do you doubt this is their first time? Finance, easy money, big business. Many games tried to capitalize on Monopoly's success, but Parker Brothers shut them down one by one. But a minor economics teacher wouldn't scare them. While preparing his defense, Ansbach made a discovery that changed everything. While searching the archives, he found troubling evidence. Monopoly was not created by Charles Darrow in 1935 as Parker Brothers had claimed for years. The trial would last almost 10 years, transforming what began as a simple case about a game into a historical investigation. Ansbach found witnesses, forgotten documents, and Darrow's empty 1933 copyright file at the United States Copyright Office. Not only did Darrow not invent the game, but Parker Brothers knew it from the very beginning. In fact, they had even bought the rights from someone else in 1936, just a year after they had already bought them from Darrow. So there's something we're hiding from you in this story. The scoreboard explodes, the media picks up the story, and everyone wants to know if the world's best-selling game is based on a lie. Parker Brothers tries to hide the story, but it's too late. Monopoly's history must be rewritten. In 1982, the Court of Appeals rules for Anspach. This is a major setback for Parker Brothers, who risk losing Monopoly's rights. The company will then deploy considerable resources to have the trademark law changed. Finally, in 1985, an agreement is reached. Anspach can continue to sell his anti-monopoly, but the name Monopoly remains the property of Parker Brothers. Most importantly, this legal battle revealed the game's true story. A story that starts before 1936 with Elizabeth Magee, whose name was lost for almost 70 years. And it's the origins of this story that this box from that time will allow us to discover. Let's go. So, here is the old version of Monopoly, which I was able to play for several hours with my family. We have the old logo, which was a bit more detailed, but I find it very nice, and the board looks like this. The green color is still nice and mostly unchanged. And as you can see, there was a lot more text before, since they put the street names in both directions. And in this case, I think it was a good idea. I don't know why they decided to remove it. As you can see, the icons haven't changed. Whether it's the chance space or the free parking space, it's always the same thing. And overall, they're exactly the same street names, except that we don't have a brown card. The first spaces, the ones after the starting space, are actually purple, even though we already have pinkish purple ones here. So I think that's why they changed the color along the way. The inside of the box looks like this. We have our bills, but as you can see, the arrangement is rather random. It's not as well organized as in the modern version. We have our chance cards and our community cards that look like this, so there are no drawings on them, they're not illustrated, there's just text each time. The property cards look like this, so in this case that hasn't changed much. The bills, on the other hand, are obviously in francs. Of course, we have our little dice. The hotels and houses were made of wood, but still green and red, and in this version, which is not the deluxe one, there weren't any little figurines or pawns, except for these kinds of buttons with numbers written on top to help you keep track, to know where you were. Honestly, it wasn't very practical, especially during the game I played with my family. On the other hand, as for the game itself, I was quite surprised because we were able to play the whole game. Like a regular Monopoly game, it took a long time to acquire all the properties. The chance and community chest cards. Community chest cards are unchanged, with birthday cards included. There are property fees and trips to Rue de la Paix. Honestly, the fun was the same, and you can see that over the years. They focused more on the aesthetics, the comfort of playing, and a few gimmicks, rather than on the core. And the rules themselves, which haven't changed at all, that's really what you can call timeless, and I'm sure that in 100 years people will still be playing it. What fascinated me in my research, and that's why I really wanted to show you this box, is that the best-selling board game in the world is actually just one, a copy of a game invented 30 years earlier by Elizabeth Magee in 1903. And hold on tight, because her game was actually anti-capitalist, even though she was completely forgotten. Elizabeth Magee was unique. Feminist, journalist, inventor, and above all, a passionate activist against monopolies and real estate speculation. To share her message, she had a brilliant idea: create a board game she called Of the Landlord. And what was really interesting was that her game could be played in two completely different ways. The first, which she called Prosperity, was cooperative. The players had to help each other and share their wealth. When someone made money, everyone benefited. The game ended when the poorest player doubled their starting fortune. The second version of the rules was called Monopolist. And here, I don't need to spell it out for you. It was exactly the opposite. You had to bankrupt your opponents by creating monopolies. Be careful, this version wasn't meant for fun. It was a demonstration, a way to point out the real estate system that was unfair and destructive for individuals. Magee created this homemade game, which wasn't meant for marketing, but people enjoyed playing it so much they recreated it at home using cards and wood pieces. Until the game ended up with Charles Darrow, who was unemployed during the Great Depression. He first offered it to Parker Brothers, but they rejected it as too complex, so Charles sold it himself. And it was such a success that 4 years later, Parker Brothers came back to him to offer him a big check that would make him a millionaire. A year later, in 1936, Parker Brothers discovered Charles Darrow had copied everything from Magee's game. So they went to see her as well to offer her a nice check for $500. That's all. Subtitles by Jeremy Diaz. She was entitled to rights for her invention, and more than anything, she wanted her message to be conveyed through the game, so she agreed. Except, as you may have guessed, those clever folks at Parker Brothers. When they bought the rights to the game, they only kept one of the two versions, the monopolist version, the one that was supposed to show the dangers of capitalism. They erased the cooperative version and changed the critical message to celebrate capitalism, which would take a long time. Subtitles by Jeremy Diaz. Oblivion and Poverty. This little-known story is now often cited as a popular example of the Matilda effect, where women's scientific discoveries are credited to male colleagues. So there you have it. Now you know the true story of Monopoly, a game created to criticize capitalism, which is actually Subtitles by Jeremy Diaz. It became a game with rules simple enough for a child to play, but with super addictive gameplay and strategies deep enough that world champions are still competing against each other in tournaments today. Next, it's one of the rare games that creates so much interaction between players. We laugh, shout, argue, get angry, cry, and in the end have a 50-50 chance to finish the game, because Uncle Bernard flipped the board after losing all his stations. There's also the fact that Monopoly has this unique ability to adapt to every culture. Wherever you play, Tokyo, New York or Paris, you find your streets and monuments, making the game personal and yours. And maybe that's Monopoly's greatest strength, its ability to evolve with the times while staying true to itself. So, the next time you take your good old Monopoly box out of the closet, you'll know that you're not just playing a simple board game, but a phenomenon with a history. Subtitles by Jeremy Diaz, with him.